Proudly broadcasting from the Richard Philip Cavallaro Studio.
WRHU.
Hempstead.
You've discovered
a cornerstone of the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication.
WRHU. From the first pitch.
Here's the first pitch of the game.
Let's do it.
To the final out.
And the ball game is over.
A swing and a miss.
And he struck him out with a fastball at 100 miles an hour. Jacob deGrom strikes out the side.
To a swing and a blast.
It's back! It's gone! Welcome to Slam Diego!
From the 4.
Toronto Chargers hit a bunch to left. He did it again! Oh my!
To the 7.
That ball is out of here! Francisco Lindor has his first home run in a Mets uniform.
And everywhere in between.
See you later! Another home run!
Welcome to the world of baseball.
The wait is over! Oh, baby!
This is the Batter's Box. Radio Hofstra University.
And strike 3! Dodgers have won it all in 2020!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Batter's Box here on 88.7 FM WRHU. Eddie Gardner and Vinny Laspinuso here with you this afternoon. Going to be talking all things Major League Baseball as we kick off the second half of the season. Vinny, how you doing today? Your WRHU hosting debut. How are you feeling?
About time. I've been here for a while, and I finally very, very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much, Eddie, for finally helping make this happen. It's been a huge, huge honor.
Well, I'm excited to talk baseball with you. Even though the regular season came to a halt this past week and we had a very busy week with the MLB Draft and the All-Star Weekend, we're going to talk a little bit about the MLB Draft coming in this segment here. But first, I just want to give a big shout-out to Pete Alonso. You made New York proud with that dominating home run derby performance the other day. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to win it, seeing his first round, even with guys like Juan Soto in there and Shohei Ohtani and Trey Mancini, who surprised a lot of people. I knew it was Alonso's from the start. He is a beast.
Before it, I actually thought that Ohtani actually had a fighting chance. I really, really did, especially when you're leading the entire majors in home runs. I figured that he could have, a real chance to take on Alonso. However, after I saw the first round with just how Alonso just kept crushing to 35 homers, that Perez lost by 8, and there's a decent chance he could have lost by more.
Sal Perez had a great round. He was I think, second leading home run hitter in that round with 28, but Alonso was just too good.
No, well, you kind of can, but if you don't count Soto and Ohtani doing, the...
Well, I'm not counting the overtimes and all. I'm talking about the first 3 minutes or whatnot.
Oh, yeah. He had a really great round, but he was just up against a very, very poor matchup, and it turned out that Alonso had the advantage, and he went on to the next round.
Well, he just repeated. I would love to see him three-peat next year, although he didn't say if he was going to be in it just yet. But by just seeing how much fun he was having over there, I definitely think he will commit next year, but that's way in the future. We had the MLB Draft this past week. A lot of dreams came true for some young players, and we're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to bring on our very own Jair Brooks Davis to discuss the MLB Draft. Jair, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Eddie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm honestly looking at this past week with the draft. I was very surprised with the number 1 pick. I'm going to go right into it. I was expecting Jack Leiter of Vanderbilt to go number 1. He went number 2 to Texas, and we had Henry Davis, the number 1 ranked catcher out of Louisville, go to Pittsburgh. I mean, I was surprised, but then when I took a deep dive into Pittsburgh farm system and seeing what other catchers they had on that roster, I think it's a good pick for them.
I see where you're coming from, Eddie. I did a dive into it yesterday, and I saw the lack of catchers that they have in the organization. So I understand why they went with a catcher rather than going with a pitcher. They have several pitchers within that organization in the minors. I think that either ways, Pittsburgh has a lot of retooling that they need to do in order to get back into being a serious contender.
Well, yeah, so Henry Davis is the number 1 ranked catcher going into this draft. He was number 5 overall draft prospect by MLB Pipeline. And like you said, they don't have a single catching prospect in the top 10, the top 15, the top 20. They're Their best catching prospect is also an outfielder. He can play the infield as well, and that's Endy Rodriguez, who's in low A. Their number 25th ranked prospect. He's 21 years old. He's projected to make his debut in 2024. So this was a big hole they needed behind the plate, and they have a lot of high hopes for some of their top pitching prospects, which I see is, I guess, why they didn't go after Leiter. Their top pitching prospect is Tanaj Thomas, number 6 overall in their organization, and Brennan Malone, although he's more of a relief pitcher. But Thomas has very good stuff, although he's struggled a lot in his AAA, in his minor league career. He has a 4.97 ERA this year, but they still have a lot of high hopes for him this year. I guess that's why they passed on Leiter, because catching is clearly the biggest hole for them.
Yes, and they also still have Cody Bolton and Carmen Malzdinsky, too, within the minors. So they definitely need to have good, solid player development for all their pitchers, and who knows what the future could hold in Pittsburgh.
But, as much as I said it's a good pick from the Henry Davis, but Jack Leiter is just so good. I mean, we saw him dominate college baseball. It's really hard to pass on him. Texas got a great guy in him. I mean, he's Al Leiter's son, who was also a former MLB All-Star. Yep. A lot of high hopes for him. Vinny, what are your thoughts on the drafts on the draft that we had?
I thought that the draft kind of went a bit how I expected. I mean, a lot of people kept mentioning Jack Leiter. But, as JB said, looking into the Pirates farm system, it made more sense to take Henry Davis, considering they were really, really deficient at catcher. Though I would say I was pretty surprised that Ty Madden did fall to the Tigers in the competitive balance round. But I did think that was a really good pickup. However, I would say that even when it comes to the drafts, the reason why I'm not as big on them as much as some of the other stuff is mainly because the MLB draft, more than the other professional drafts, tend to be the ones that are the biggest crapshoot. Like, you don't know how someone's going to perform in the minors, and you don't know how that guy is going to perform on the pros. Sometimes you can have someone who's not as good in college that does better in the pros, or vice versa. So I would say, Madden's biggest steal for me, but, I do like the idea of Leiter going to the Texas Rangers.
You thought that was the biggest steal? In my opinion, the biggest steal was number 10, New York Mets selecting Kumar Rocker out of Vanderbilt, who I mean was ranked as the number 2 pitcher in this draft behind Leiter.
I'm not that shocked because I did see some mock drafts actually taking number 10. So
really?
I'm not that shocked actually. I mean, I'm a little surprised, but not that surprised. I was more surprised with the Tiger selection than the Mets.
JB, you looked like you had something to say there.
Oh, I was gonna go back. I'm sorry, over to the Texas Rangers, but yes, the Texas Rangers selection of Jack Leiter is going to be really, really interesting because they also have Cole Winn, who's doing pretty well in Double-A right now and in the minors, along with Hans Kraus. So Texas has the chance to put like a nice pitching core with each other. But yes, when it comes to the Mets and Kumar Rocker, along with JT Ginn and Thomas Sapucki and
Matt Allen,
Matt Allen. The Mets had the chance to recreate what they were trying to recreate several years ago when they had Jacob deGrom, Zach Wheeler, Matt Harvey, Steven Matz, and Noah Syndergaard. So the Mets had the chance to pull sort of like that young core together and try to make a way for their future. So
they had that potential, but what happened with that old core of Harvey, DeGrom, Matz, Wheeler, all that, injuries plagued them in poor performance. You saw Matt Harvey, his career got ruined from injury. Steven Matz was injured a lot. Zach Wheeler had Tommy John, so they never pitched together in a full rotation. I think they only did it like once. And we're seeing a little bit of injury trouble now with those prospects, but I'd rather have them in the minors now and not affect them later on. Like number 3 overall prospect and Matt Allen just underwent Tommy John surgery. He's going to miss a bulk of next season too. Yep. Thomas Sapucki, is that how you say it?
Thomas Sapucki.
Sapucki, yes. He just had surgery as well, is out for the year. And then you got Kumar Rocker. JT Ginn, though, he's been healthy so far. But if you add Rocker to that mix, after this, great pitching trio of DeGrom, Stroman, and Walker, you could see a bright future for that Mets team. That was very similar. I like the comparison you made, to those guys 5 years ago.
I also wanted to point out that some Mets fans, I saw some Mets fans were saying that, who knows, I think we could see Kumar Rocker next year on him.
I know. I mean, he's 21 years old.
It's possible.
He's 21. A lot of the guys, like Matt Allen's 20. I think he could possibly leap Allen and be in the majors sooner.
I think there's a very good shot with that.
I would say, like I said, it really depends on how these guys on the top 5 or even top 10 really perform in the minors. If he's that good that they can skip him up from single A to Double A or sometimes just Double A to the majors, I think there is a decent chance we could see that for some of these players. However, like I said, for all we know, we could have another Mark Appel here. I doubt it, though, because a situation like that is very, very rare. But still, it's more likely you're going to see the top guys in this draft come into the majors sooner as opposed to later.
One thing I will say about the Mets is that a while ago I felt like their minor league system was depleted, but I give them a lot of credit. I give the front office a lot of credit for recreating it, retooling it, and bringing in the prospects that they have with Mauricio, along with Brett Beatty and everyone else, Pete Crow, Armstrong, and the crew. And to draft Kumar Rocker at number 10, it was a steal. Even though the Mets lost 5-0, even though the Mets blew a 5-0 lead. And it felt like it was like raining for a second. The sun was shining when we got Kumar Rocker.
Now, I know we're praising all these guys. Oh, they're going to be stars. They just got drafted. But baseball is a weird sport. How many times have you seen a top pick just completely fail and flunk out? Like you said, Mark Appel, I think he was with the Astros, right?
He was with the Astros. He went to the Phillies, and I think he's trying to have a comeback. But
there's not many overall picks that have been super successful.
Yeah, you see, there's only one, if I recall, there's only one number one overall pick that's in the Hall of Fame, being Ken Griffey Jr. So I wouldn't put as much stock in it, but at the same time, it really depends on how these guys are going to do in the minors, because if they're going to be successful in the minors, you're going to see them quicker. If they're not going to be that successful, you're going to have to wait a little bit.
The Pirates do have some success historically at number one overall. The last number one overall pick was Garrett Cole in 2011. I think he turned out pretty good. But a lot of these guys, who went number one? Henry Davis. Obviously we don't know what he's going to turn out. He's got great potential. He batted .372 in 2020 and .370 in 2021, which are monster numbers. Major League Baseball is a whole different level, like the big leagues.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is, and also player development is very key. And for teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates and all of them, I feel they need to work on their player development.
Well, Jair, thank you so much for coming on, talking about the MLB Draft in our leading off segment. We're going to move on here on the Batter's Box on WRHU. We have a feature put together for you guys by Jack Lydon and Brendan Gambeski, breaking down the MLB trade deadline as that's coming along, so take a listen.